Welcome to the Liberty Mike podcast, broadcasting from an undisclosed location in the heart of Dixie. I am Michael, and I am here with Liberty Larry.
How's it going?
Don't get distracted by the cat already.
Oh, it's there. Like that's the scene.
He's just checking things out in the corner.
Yeah. So did you see
my box collection?
All right. So did you see the white smoke today?
Oh, did
The Pope has been announced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who is it?
Some guy from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's also going to be Pope Leo, which I don't understand the name thing at all. So
yeah, I don't either.
For the people that are listening out there, maybe somebody else knows, but that just came in a couple of hours ago. So I hadn't got to really dig in yet, but we have a Pope.
Okay. Well, we hadn't even talked about the Pope
dying.
At all.
Yeah. Well, the big controversy this week was the picture of Trump done up as the Pope.
I did see that.
That's been the big controversy.
Come on, people, have a little bit of a sense of humor.
And so he talked about that in the same press conference we were talking about earlier, the sports one. Like one of the reporters asked the question.
We were talking about, not on the podcast.
Yeah. One of the reporters asked him about it, and it boiled down to him being like, "Look, it was a joke. Can we not take a joke?" And I agree. Like I say, it's just a funny little thing.
Like the Catholics are all becoming Muslims all of a sudden. Any kind of image that they find offensive, they're ready to riot now. Is that what's happening?
What's so bad about it is, and I don't know, like I say, just gauging from what I've seen, it's not the Catholics that are upset about it. Although there were some Catholics that were. I think there were some bishops that said some things that they didn't appreciate it and that type of thing. So I'm not trying to just say that there was no Catholics that were upset. Mm-hmm. There were. But it's mostly liberals that are upset who are not religious at all. Yeah. And it's like...
That's not wholly true.
That's not wholly true, but it's like partly true. I don't know.
Yeah. Like liberal media, you think is what was really upset? Or are you just talking about the young white liberal
No, I'm talking about liberal media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just something to be outraged about. I just figured it could
be the young white liberal women who are offended on everybody else's behalf.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what this is. The liberals are, offended on the Christians' behalf or the Catholics' behalf, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt the Baptists care about that.
Yeah, none of them I've talked to do.
Yeah.
So...
But they have no sense of humor either. Maybe the Methodists got a kick out of it, or the Presbyterians.
The Baptists,
I'm sure the Episcopalians did.
Oh, dude, yeah. All the Baptists I've talked to has gotten a kick out of it. So. It was. Right. It wasn't like it was that funny, but it wasn't offensive though. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the point. Is it was just something silly, and it shouldn't have in any way been offensive.
Yeah.
So
Bridget Fetisi has a segment on her show usually called Troll in Chief.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, that's a good segment to do because he rolls something out a few times a week.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't even the only one he had that was controversial this week. He had he did a Star Wars one for May the 4th.
Right.
Yeah.
He was carrying a red lightsaber.
Where he had the red lightsaber, yes. It was like...
People jumped on that.
Yeah, they jumped on that one hard. I thought it was funny too. I don't know. Stuff like that's just silly. I don't really take it one way or the other, Mm-hmm. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. I don't know. Just absurd. We've completely lost our sense of humor here.
Yeah.
At least with regard to Trump. I don't get it.
Well, the big claim is that it degrades the office and the office loses respect for it. It's like, okay,
if you haven't lost respect for that office long ago, then
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Uh-huh.
So,
well, I thought that we would revisit the big topic from the last podcast because I've definitely gotten some pushback on the gang associations thing and so forth. The main pushback I've gotten is that guy's terrible and that he beats his wife and he is definitely a criminal and so on and so forth. I'm not disputing that.
That's great. Then my whole thing is then prove it.
Yeah.
That's my whole deal. If he is, then fine. But due process will hammer that out.
Well, there already has been, he's already been convicted of some some crimes, as I understand it.
Okay.
I didn't look.
I mean, I haven't looked into it that truthfully. The broader question is what we were more wanting to talk about.
Yeah, I don't care about the specific guy.
Exactly.
The specific guy is kind of, he's like the reason to talk about the issue, but he's not the issue.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The issue is that the two aspects of it are that you can't be criminal by being associated with criminals.
Exactly.
That does not in and of itself make you a criminal. No matter what you call the group, it does not make you a criminal to be a part of a group that is associated with criminal activity.
Yes.
The other thing is the due process issue.
Yeah.
And both of those are the real concern. If, like I said, even the guy that killed what's her name, that they keep talking about over and over again, the immigrant.
Yeah, I cannot, and I still we discussed it last time and didn't know the person's name and still don't know. I don't remember.
But he had a trial.
Yeah.
To prove his guilt.
Yeah.
And it, you made the right point. You can't say that somebody's in the country illegally unless you prove that they've been. I mean, here's the other issue is that keeps coming up.
And Trump is fighting that, by the way. He is out there hardcore. Like, well, we can't process all of these through the court system. It'll take 300 years. Like I heard him say that today.
Yeah.
Or somewhere today. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the truth is that almost nothing goes to trial already.
Yeah,
the court system already can't handle.
Well, yeah, I mean,
everything.
Well, the thing is we're not going to have full blown jury trials here, but I mean, a hearing to at least affirm whether this person is illegal or not, I think is fair. And you knock a bunch of those out in an hour. Like, I mean,
haven't you ever been to traffic court?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a nightmare. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, but it goes fast.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so how do you say somebody is an illegal immigrant without showing that they are?
Exactly.
Anybody who's disputing it should be able to go to court.
Go in front of a judge and at least because if they're right, then it shouldn't be too hard to prove. Like it shouldn't take long.
Right.
Up or down, one way or the other.
Yeah. And then the question has become, are non-citizens protected by the Bill of Rights?
Yeah, that's the other one that keeps coming up.
And the answer is yes, absolutely. The Bill of Rights was written to try and codify what the founders considered to be natural rights that apply to all of us.
Exactly.
Everybody that's human.
To all people.
Yeah.
And some animals.
I'm not sure about that part, but...
we'll agree to disagree.
Oh, God. Okay.
I said that just to make you mad.
I heard that discussion too.
Did you? Yeah, I figured you did.
Anyway, the Bill of Rights protects everybody under the jurisdiction of the United States government.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of, well, if they're not citizens of the U.S., are they under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government? Yeah, if they're being prosecuted by the U.S. government, then they're definitely under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government.
Right.
So
it just doesn't seem like it's that complicated of a matter to me. Like, I mean, basically how you laid it out is how it is.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand. But what it is you've got one side that wants to push an agenda. And so this is a mechanism that they can try to use to push that agenda.
Mm-hmm. And I saw Trump in the interview saying, I was elected to get rid of these people, and that's what I'm doing. And yeah, there's truth in that.
Oh, there absolutely is.
But it doesn't mean that you're no longer bound by the laws of this country. Like, and in fact, your job as the executive, as the chief executive of the United States, is specifically to enforce the laws.
Well, he questioned that too.
Yeah,
so.
you don't get to accept yourself.
Yeah.
And the people, or your departments, or whatever.
I mean, the people that voted for him definitely gave him a mandate to start getting people out of here. Mm-hmm. But there's a right way to do that, and there's a wrong.
Yeah.
And Trump just wants to use he's not concerned with what the law is. He's just concerned with doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And like I say, I mean, it's just not right. But he's not unique in this. I mean,
no, certainly.
All presidents have that mentality.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, Biden with the the rent moratoriums and all that stuff, like
Yeah.
doing things that they know are illegal because they know that it'll take long enough in the court that they'll get most of the job done by the time the courts, work it out.
Get it. Yeah, exactly.
By the time it works through the system, just go ahead and do something that you know is illegal because you can start doing it immediately, and it takes a while for the court system to process it, which is a flaw of its own.
Well, it should be criminal in itself to make a deterrent for people not to do that, or politicians not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if they knew that there would be serious ramifications when it got shot down in court, they'd be less likely to pull that maneuver.
That's true.
I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I mean, you have to have some kind of mechanism to.
Well, I think the mechanism would be impeachment.
Okay.
I think that the mechanism would be impeachment for like when it finished through the court system and it was determined that, yep, in fact, what you did was illegal. Then we start having a hearing about whether you knew it was illegal at the beginning.
Yeah.
And if you did that just with the intention of holding out for as long as you can.
Yeah.
And that would be hard to. That would probably be hard to prosecute, but it would be such a killer in public opinion and so forth that I think
it can slow your momentum so much that it could be that could be a deterrent in itself. Even if you knew that the votes weren't there to impeach you, just the process and the circus of it would be enough that, well, let's find another way to do this.
Yeah. Or
find a right way to do this. Because like the deal with what's going on with Trump and the immigration right now, I mean, there's a right way to do these things. Yeah. And I'm not against doing them. I know a lot of people are. I mean, you may even be one of them as far as just
I'm not
people
opposed to
here.
getting criminal non-citizens out of this country. I'm absolutely not opposed to that. Yeah. I'm opposed to a complete border shutdown. Yeah. I'm opposed to harassing people because they're here illegally. And that's the only thing wrong with them. They're working, they're paying taxes, et cetera.
I agree with that. I mean, and like I say, I mean, I do think that you should have to be in this country legally, but I don't. The idea that we're just going to start going door to door and knocking on and yanking people around.
Where's your papers?
Yeah, I have a problem with that. But like I say, if you end up in a confrontation with law enforcement and you're here illegally, I don't think they should have any reason not to turn you over the ice and send you out of here.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, like I say, I mean, that should be an incentive that if you're here illegally, you ought to behave yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like that's a positive incentive right there.
Yeah, absolutely. The other part of that is the guilt by association thing. And I was talking to my mom specifically about this. And I have a problem with it's essentially an arbitrary designation of terrorist groups. All these groups that they name as terrorists. And she was telling me that, the difference is that these are foreign nationals. And I said, well, but what about the Italian mafia? In this country, like a lot of them were American citizens, and I imagine honestly that a lot of people that are members of MS-13 and so forth that are here are U.S. citizens also.
I would be shocked if they weren't.
But there is a group of foreign nationals that are also a part of these groups, but we didn't call the mafia a terrorist organization. Yeah. And of course, we've been harping on the issue of domestic terrorism as a designation for a while now, because it just seems to be a label that you tack on to any group that you see as anti-government.
Yeah. Or that you don't like.
Yeah. And these are just dangerous labels. And the main reason that they're a dangerous label is because they're being used as an excuse to ignore due process or the limits of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so, of course, my big point at the end of that, and we can go back and address some of the details as well, but my big point on that is that the government is the only institution, whatever you want to call it, that has a legal... I'm going to say... I don't want to say right because I don't think that's the right word.
It's not a mandate, maybe.
Yeah, that can legally use force against others.
Yeah.
We'll just say it like that.
Okay.
The government is the only entity that can legally use force against others to get its way. And I think that we should do everything that we can to restrict the instances where they're permitted to use force, violence against others, rather than opening up more avenues for them to have an excuse to use violence.
Exactly.
And I say violence very loosely here. I mean, the use of force and coercion to get against people.
Yeah.
And so that's my real concern about that is if you start designating that these groups lessen the restrictions on the use of force by government. Yeah. If they're considered to be a part of this under this particular label, then the restrictions against the use of force by government are reduced. I think that we should do everything in our power to prevent that. We should raise those bars, not lower them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because it gets dangerous for all of us if we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're talking about literally if you have certain tattoos, you're affiliated with a certain group.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just as, I mean, I don't personally have any tattoos, but I have a wife that's loaded with them. You know, I mean, that's like all it takes is the wrong person to interpret the wrong tattoo the wrong way, and you're getting shipped to El Salvador. Like, you know,
like all that stupid kanji stuff that people get on their bodies that they have no idea what it means. Maybe one of them means that you're a member of the Yakuza and you didn't even know it.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the slippery slope thing, you know.
Well, and that was something that she gave me some pushback on, was the slippery slope argument. And I say, yeah, but we had the same issue with gay marriage years ago. And I'm not opposed to gay marriage. No. I'm for gay marriage. I think that adults should be able to engage in any kind of mutually agreeable
arrangement.
Yeah, arrangement that they choose.
Absolutely.
But you know, there was, when it first came up, people said, well, we can't allow this because then it'll lead to the approval of other kinds of, you know, everybody's going to get offended when I use this phrase, but sexual deviancy.
Yeah.
And the argument was like, oh, no, that's ridiculous, etc. But now you see that once that battle has been won, then we've got all this gender ideology stuff. Yep. They're trying to normalize pedophilia. Yeah. It has led to other attempts to push the boundaries of what is culturally acceptable.
Yeah. It's because the push can't stop. Like just because, because all the mechanisms are there to keep going, and you can never win.
Yeah. Well, once you've won the battle, then you have to find a new battle because otherwise the funding dries up.
Exactly. It's the money goes away. You know.
And at some point that becomes the reason instead of like.
Yeah. The actual cause.
Social activism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to get away from designating whole groups based on the actions of a few members. And I understand, everybody, that MS-13 is a violent gang. I'm not saying that...
Yeah. So are the Crips and Bloods.
Yeah. Oh, but they're U.S. citizens.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think that it matters to the government very much.
No.
Like, I think the government has proven a few times that they're not really that concerned about U.S. citizens.
No.
Depending on the government, sometimes they're less concerned about U.S. citizens than they are about immigrants.
Yeah, all right.
We've had some recent experience with that. But the point is that we should try and restrict as much as possible the government's legal ability to use force and coercion against others. And... identifying particular groups as being, I guess, exempt from those protections is a problem.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh. All right. What do you want to talk about next?
I don't know. What else you got on your list over there?
You had something.
Oh, What did I have?
Oh, sorry, Kat.
Just
kicked her off the chair next to me.
What was the thing this week? I sent it to you.
It was like your issue.
Oh, the Nord Stream.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't even want to talk about this. So.
Well, I thought it was interesting, and you interpreted the clip a little different than what I did. But like I say, I had watched it live because
explain.
Trump was talking about I guess they're going to do the NFL draft in D.C. in 2027. There was a big announcement about it. Yeah. Of course, I'm watching this because, I follow football and I'm interested in that kind of stuff. And so when they get to the talking to the press portion of the little thing, one of the reporters asked Trump if there's going to be any type of investigation into what happened with the Nord Stream. Like if that was something he was interested in looking into and investigating. And he basically, he said a lot of things, but one of which was that if he wanted to know who it was, he could probably make a few phone calls and find out. Mm-hmm. To me, I interpret that as him kind of insinuating that maybe we did it. I don't know. He definitely came out and said Putin definitely didn't do it, which we all knew that. And I feel like we all kind of knew that we did it. But, because the question becomes if we didn't do it and Putin obviously didn't do it, there's no reason for Putin to have done it. Mm-hmm. Who did?
Yeah. Well, Ukraine had a reason to, but they didn't really have the capabilities.
They didn't have the resources, yeah.
Poland is an option still. I don't know. I didn't interpret it that way. I understand your point that maybe he was given a nod to that. I wanted to avoid talking about it because I think that it's a waste of our time to talk about every stupid offhand comment that Trump makes.
Well, he makes a lot of them, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In this case, the only thing that he said definitively was that Putin didn't do it. That Putin wasn't responsible.
Yeah. And he was against the Nord Stream. He talked about how he blew it up originally, trying to as far as even having it built.
That's actually kind of what I thought the whole thing was about him tooting his own horn as usual. That's narcissistic. Well, I'm the one that really destroyed the deal in the first place, and if Biden hadn't screwed up, then it would have never been finished anyway.
Which is kind of funny because Biden really does screw that up as far as letting it be built and then having to have us go blow it up potentially.
Yeah,
it really is kind of a screw up.
But I think you're reading too much into it. I don't think that he really made any kind of definitive statement, and he definitely didn't make a definitive statement.
No, he definitely didn't.
I think that I understand because I believe also that we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah.
But I think that because you believe that, you were reading into it something that wasn't there. I think that most of what it was about was part of it was kind of a half joke about I could save the taxpayers a lot of money on an investigation just by calling the right people and finding the answers. Now, that could easily be interpreted as, well, certainly our intelligence services actually know what happened.
Yeah. Well,
and who's responsible, and we could be protecting any number of countries that might have done it.
Yeah.
That's anywhere
fair.
In NATO.
That's definitely fair.
And I think but the main thing was to talk about how Biden screwed it up and he's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
and Trump is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was interesting to me that the question even came up because honestly, I kind of forgotten about it. It wasn't even something when it came up at the press conference. I was like, whoa, that's actually a really good question. I hadn't put any thought about that since he came into office.
Well, think about you alluded to this part of the other interview that we were talking about with him about the question of the Constitution. Where he was asked point blank, where he was told that Rubio had said that, or was it Rubio or Hexeth? I think it was Rubio's. I think they said Secretary of State. I can't remember now. Yeah. But had said that even non-citizens should get due process, and isn't he responsible to the Constitution? And he said, I don't know.
Yeah, he definitely didn't say yes.
Yeah. And so that was interpreted by people to mean that he doesn't even know if he's responsible to the Constitution, when obviously his oath of office is about protecting and upholding the Constitution.
Yeah.
Now, I think that interpretation is wrong. I think that he wasn't saying that he doesn't know if it's his job to uphold the Constitution.
Yeah.
I think what he meant by that was that he doesn't know if that's the correct interpretation of the Constitution.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also fair.
Right? That there's questions about whether this is constitutional or not. If it's not constitutional, he doesn't think that he's supposed to do it. But he thinks that it is constitutional what he's doing. That's how I interpreted that. But a lot of people were up in arms about him saying that he wasn't even sure that he was responsible to the Constitution.
Yeah.
Oh, dictator, doesn't care about the Constitution.
Yeah.
And I think it's reading in what you want him to be saying.
And Trump, by the way, is the master of that. Like, has always been the master of, like, throwing the way he speaks just kind of invites this. You hear what you want to hear.
Yeah. He's very nonspecific. And he's very nonspecific in his decisions, which, okay, I'm getting off track on this, but I think that this is worth mentioning because his foreign policy so far, I think, has been a complete disaster. Yeah. And that was like one of the things that I was most
excited about.
Yeah, in him coming into office. But both with the trade stuff and with the war stuff, he's just such a flip-flopper.
Yeah, wherever the wind blows.
Yeah. And so, it's like every time he talks to somebody new, he changes his mind about how to handle something. And this is bad both internally and externally because, in terms of business, like with the trade stuff, American business can do fine in a growing economy or a shrinking economy, with interest rates rising or with interest rates falling, with tariffs being applied or with tariffs not being applied. But they have to know what to expect.
Yeah. They got to know which direction it's heading.
And if it keeps going back and forth, then that creates a real instability in the economy.
Absolutely.
Both internally and externally. And then, of course, with the foreign policy stuff is that, sometimes seems like he's working to find a peace, a compromise between Ukraine and Russia, that he's ready to get out of this, but then he announces new funding to Ukraine and new weapons support. And it's come to a point where if I'm the Russians, I just don't believe anything he says. And I know that I'm in a position on the battlefield that I can make it the way I want it anyway. Yeah. So I'm not even concerned about negotiating anymore. I was interested in negotiating when I thought that I knew where it was going. Yeah. And I'm happy to find a peace that way. But when I don't know what direction the guy that's the focal point, the mediator of the negotiations, whether he's trying to achieve one thing and then he's trying to achieve another thing and then he's trying to achieve a different thing instead. And then, and it's across purposes. I'm too confused and I just don't care enough. Yeah. Like because I don't need it.
Because they have the upper hand.
Yeah. I don't need the negotiations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It would be nice.
Yeah.
But I don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking more and more like this Ukraine thing's just going to persist.
Yeah, it's going to play out on the battlefield. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Trump was saying that the idea that Putin wanted to take over all of Ukraine and then all of Europe was stupid.
Yeah.
And now he's saying exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And it is stupid. So now he's just as stupid as the guy before him.
Yeah.
And what a disappointment.
It really is.
But the problem is that he doesn't have he's directionless.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have values.
Yeah. Principles.
Principles. That's what I was looking for. Principles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He doesn't have any guiding principles, like us libertarians do.
Yeah. And a big part of it too, and I think that this kind of is the reason that every time he talks to somebody new, he changes his mind, is that he doesn't have the knowledge himself, and he's not willing to figure it out. He just makes himself dependent on people around him explaining to him like what the history is here or whatever.
Yeah.
What people want. He doesn't have the interest to go figure it out for himself.
Yeah, he's never read a book on any of this stuff.
Yeah. I don't know that for certain, but that's my interpretation.
I just don't picture Donald Trump sitting down to have a good read on some, the history of anything.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, just read a few articles, man. It's easy.
I mean, he's the epitome of get your information from the news on the TV and not your information from the news that you read.
Yeah. It was a comedian. Actually, I'm gonna look up this quote on my phone so that I don't get it wrong. But
Who is it?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember who it is. So this way I can also give credit where credit's due. It should be near the bottom because I haven't added a whole lot of quotes since then. Emo Phillips is the name of the person. Is a comedian. Said, I used to think that the brain was the most wonderful organ in my body. Then I realized who was telling me this.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. So maybe Trump needs to spend more time thinking about what the goals are of the people that are advising him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he does some of that, but clearly not enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
So, what else you got for topics?
Well, yesterday, Real ID finally went into effect.
Oh, that means I can't fly anymore.
Yeah.
At least as of right now.
Yeah. Well, I have a passport. What I don't understand, on the surface of this, by the way, what I don't understand is how I can fly with a passport, but if I didn't have a passport, I would need a Real ID. But to get a Real ID, I need so much more than a passport.
Yeah.
How is it a substitute for the thing, but then I need so much more to get the basic thing than the international travel issue?
Yeah.
Whatever.
It makes no sense. And I may have misunderstood. They were talking about this yesterday. It was on the local news, so I don't know how accurate this is. But it sounded like, at least because they were trying to make the case to go get the Real ID, that even if you're using a passport, that you will get through security and whatnot quicker with the Real ID than with the passport.
Yeah, they're trying to set up impediments wherever they can to make you get the Real ID.
Yeah.
Now, remember, the Real ID was part of the reaction to 9/11.
Yeah.
Let me also, as an aside here, that if there had been a Real ID at the time of 9/11, it would have made no difference.
Yeah, it would have.
All of these people had legitimate IDs that got on the plane.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it was a reaction to 9/11, but there was so much pushback that they kept from the states and the people that they kept canceling the due date.
Yeah,
I guess, and moving it back, delaying when it would come into effect. Now we're 20 plus years later.
Yeah.
And so if it was as important as they said it was, then it's unconscionable to have waited this long.
Exactly.
So it's obviously not as important as they said it was in the first place.
No.
And so I think, of course, that it doesn't protect us any.
No.
What it does is it gets a whole lot more of your information into the national database.
Yeah.
And it requires a photo, which will be used certainly for facial ID.
Yeah.
And the law is open enough that they can keep adding requirements for additional biometrics.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's about tracking you. It's not about keeping you safe.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we should all revolt.
Yeah. Well, given what I saw on the news last night, I don't think anybody is revolting. Everybody was in a frenzy to go. They got to make sure they get it so they can get onto an airplane.
Well, like I said, they're setting up impediments to try and force you to do it in the same way that they did with vaccines, remember?
Yep.
And vaccine passports.
Yep.
That were proposed all over the place. We'll make it hard for you to work. We'll make it hard for you to eat. We'll make it hard for you to buy groceries or go anywhere in the city. We're going to do all these things to prevent you from living a normal life so that you'll do the thing that you don't want to do, but we want you to do, and doesn't make any difference.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it makes a difference to them. They want that control and that information. But it doesn't make but the argument that they're making,
it won't make your life safer.
Yeah, it's not gonna do that.
And so I guess we should have been talking about this a lot earlier.
Yeah,
is really the lesson here.
Yeah, because it's been out there forever. You're right. I mean, this is forever ago.
Honestly, I never thought that it would go into effect.
Yeah.
But I think that what's happened here is nothing has changed except that they think that you're now complacent enough to allow it to happen.
Well, and people are, like I say. I mean, everybody's, like I say, good luck getting into the DMV right now for much of anything. Everybody's after getting the real ID.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm going to keep using my passport for as long as I can.
Yeah. And waiting those extra lines, right?
I guess so. I mean, airports.
I wasn't sure that I interpreted that right off the thing I saw last night, but that was definitely what they were saying.
I've heard that too. And it may come to a time, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if it comes to a time where you absolutely have to that there are no other alternative forms.
Yeah.
You'll have to carry your passport if you're traveling internationally because the other countries will need your passport.
Yeah.
But in order for you to travel domestically, you'll need that. This.
Yeah.
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 And of course, they're making the case that it's about all these immigrants in the country. But once again,
well, that's just because that's the topic of the day.
Yeah, like that's the new excuse.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with that. It was about terrorism.
Well, I was going to say it was about terrorism before, and now that terrorism isn't hot anymore. It's immigrants, because immigrants are hot right now.
Yeah, but remember that if this law had been in effect on 9/11, it would not have prevented it.
Yeah, those guys had everything they needed.
Yep.
So,
and in fact, it might make it more open, honestly, because now you're, if you get this ID, then you are less scrutinized.
Yeah, yeah.
So anybody who's really trying to attack this country in that through the airline system, is just going to get a real ID.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, it can be done.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. The system isn't that foolproof.
Yeah. But nobody that got on those planes on 9/11 that launched those attacks had any kind of fake ID.
No. They
all had legitimate IDs.
Yeah. So.
Now, at the time, most of them, their IDs weren't checked because...
Yeah. We didn't really do that back then.
But... so maybe checking them would have made a difference, but it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And having a new kind of ID definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah.
All right. I'm so frustrated about that now.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to follow through myself, which really irritates me. But I do fly enough that
it's going to become
if they're trying to tell me that it's going to take me another extra hour or more to get through security when flying is already takes up way too much of our time, then I might have to do it myself and then complain about it the whole time I'm in line. And tell everybody around me why this is terrible.
There you go.
The same way I do when I'm in security at airports already.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. I've only had to do it a handful of times, but dude, this is not the pose of a free man.
Yeah. Oh, I use that line every time too. Yep. I make sure that as many people hear me as I can. When you're standing in the little scanner thing and you got your hands over your head and your legs spread, that's what you say. This is not the pose of a free man. I would like all of the listeners to do that as well.
Absolutely. We can start a movement.
Yeah. And then, of course, like I might be lucky that I haven't been like pulled out of line already, just because by the time I get to the front of a security line, most of the time I've got at least 5 or 6 people around me, all agreeing with me that the whole thing's make work and it doesn't do anything at all.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Anyway, and then of course you have the TSA one of the big things that happened after 9/11 was that the federal government took over security at airports.
Yeah.
It hadn't been controlled by the federal government before. Now, that said, all the private security that worked back at that time was responsible to all of the federal regulations.
Oh, really? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So they just they weren't federal employees that were enforcing it, but they were enforcing federal regulations.
Law. Yeah.
So what difference does it really make? And the
whole idea that we thought that turning it over to the government would be better is just insane.
Yeah, because they are terrible at all of the audits about getting things through that aren't allowed on the plane.
Yeah.
Terrible. Something like, I don't think that I've seen a number lower than 85% of illegal materials have made it through TSA in these audits.
Yeah.
And I promise you private security would do better, because if they failed an audit like that, they all get fired.
Yeah. There's new people coming in.
Yeah. Exactly. And they know that the last guys got fired for not doing what they were supposed to.
Exactly.
But if you're a government employee, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You're safe.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how bad you are at your job. The problem is always that we just don't give them enough money to do their job.
Right. Anytime they fail, that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Speaking of money.
Ooh.
Last topic. Because there's been a little... man, Donald Trump cannot stop talking about this guy. There's nothing that can be done. We could not get through a podcast without mentioning his name.
Oh, Trump?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's the big man in the room.
So there's been a little feud between him and the Fed chair.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's got to lower those rates, man. Like, Trump's telling him to do it. Like, he's just not doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump's tried everything he can to crash the economy, so he'll do it.
Is that the word on the street?
That's one argument I've heard. I've heard that from a few people.
Well,
I'm like, man, like that doesn't logically follow at all.
Yeah.
Like, the whole reason he wants him to lower the rates is so that it'll help the economy.
to inflate the bubble more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
because
what
he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
All right. So then there becomes the question of Fed independence.
Yeah.
This is a lie anyway. The Fed has never really been independent. Yeah. And I've heard even some Austrian economists talking about how it should be even less independent than it is right now.
Yeah.
And I'll now I can't think of the name of the guy. There's a guy at the Mises Institute that I saw an interview with him by Bob Murphy the other day. Murphy. That was kind of interesting. His last name starts with an S, but I can't come up with it. Anyway, the Fed, the Fed is employed by the government, right? Like the federal government makes all the choices about the people that are at the top.
Yeah.
And so how could they really be independent of the federal government to begin with?
Yeah.
Just because you see this feuding between Trump and the Fed chair doesn't mean that they're an independent entity. And actually, they're just both trying to blame each other for the coming crash. That's really what it's about. Yeah. The Fed chair is saying that all these tariffs are going to cause the crash, and Trump is saying that the Fed's raising the interest rates or not lowering the interest rates is going to cause the crash.
The only thing we know for sure is that the crash is coming.
Yes. Yeah, they're both trying to get ahead of when this happens to not take the responsibility.
Blame for it. Yeah, exactly.
And so the Trump tariffs, they do have an effect, obviously, on the economy. We've talked about it over and over again.
Yeah.
They do contribute to price inflation. But they contribute to price inflation as a one-time deal.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
That the tariff is put into place. It causes price shifts in the industries and products and services that it affects.
Yeah.
And then that it doesn't continue to inflate beyond that.
Yeah.
Creating money is what causes long-term sustained inflation.
Yeah.
And the way you create money is by lowering interest rates.
Yeah.
Because it encourages more borrowing, and borrowing is the mechanism that they actually use to create money.
To create the money, yeah. Exactly.
So the Fed chair is actually doing the right thing by not lowering the interest rates. Of course, the absolute right thing would be to get rid of the Fed entirely and let interest rates be a market decision like they should be.
Yeah.
But
oh man, how great would that be?
Well, it would suck for a little while, but because they're going to adjust upwards because the interest rates right now are so far below the market
they're
rate.
Artificially low. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. The interest rates should be way higher than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah. So the Fed doesn't actually like create money as such, like the way we often think about them, just adding
money printer going burr.
Yeah. What they do is that when they reduce the interest rate, this is the rates that the Fed offers to banks. It encourages banks to loan out more money, and that's the mechanism through which they actually create new money.
The extra money, yeah.
And that is also the mechanism that leads to the boom and bust cycle.
Yeah. That we are just perpetually in.
Because if you make money cheap, you lend out more money, you create more money out of nothing. The money is ill-used because the interest rates themselves encourage borrowing and not saving. You don't have capital accumulation. The money is borrowed to complete projects that look like good plans because the interest rate itself is a signal to producers that they should produce more when it's lower.
Yeah.
And so, but then you produce more because the money's cheap, but there isn't anybody buying the things.
But the demand's not there.
Yeah. And then eventually the economy contracts when a bunch of deals fall through, essentially. I'm definitely simplifying this because I don't want to go through this whole process on this podcast, but
well, because we've done it.
Well, yeah, that too, I suppose. I was going to talk about modern monetary theory in this context because I finally figured out like what their core belief is that I never really understood.
Oh, I'm interested.
So we'll just take, and I'm necessarily simplifying this too, and maybe I'm not being fair to them in some ways, but the crux of it is this belief that they have that the government makes money.
Yeah.
That without government, money wouldn't really exist. That through the process of taxation, this is the funny part to me.
Yeah.
Through the process of taxation, they create demand for the currency that they produce.
I've heard this, yeah.
Yeah. And so therefore, without taxation, like no money would form. Yeah. And they look at the historical record and they say, in every case that we have a record of money, there was a central government that taxed its citizens, and they taxed the citizens to create demand for the notes that they created. Mm-hmm. And without that demand for the notes that they created, people would continue on the barter system or something like that.
Yeah. Or use gold or silver or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a form
system
of money too, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's still money according to them. They're just saying that the gold and silver wouldn't be worth anything. It wouldn't be an exchange item if the government didn't require it to pay taxes.
Okay. All
right. Now, in some sense, that they're correct in that the historical record would show that in every case where we know of money, or at least most, I don't think that that's entirely true because you've got some like corner cases, like prisons, for example.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in a moment.
All
but
right.
The cases where we have written records of the use of money included central governments and taxation and so forth. Because, by the time they have written records where they're keeping track of credits and debits, they've already gone through all the rest of the process that creates a medium of exchange already.
Yeah.
Like, so that has was accomplished to have a standard medium of exchange before there was a central government.
Yeah.
They have it backwards of what came first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then of course, the corner cases is the example that everybody knows is that cigarettes are used as a currency in prison.
Yeah.
They are a standard unit. They're easy to exchange.
Yeah.
They're even divisible to some degree.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that if you get several cigarettes, you can trade 1 or 2 or 3 depending on the value of the item that you're trading for.
Yeah.
The cigarettes,
and they have a purpose. You can smoke them.
Yeah. And then it started with the people that didn't smoke, though, trading their cigarettes for things that they wanted.
Yeah.
To the smokers.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it didn't come from the guards demanding tribute in cigarettes or something like that, or the warden demanding tribute in cigarettes.
Yeah. Oh.
So there was no central authority that was taxing in cigarettes to create the demand for cigarettes that turned cigarettes into a currency in prison.
Yeah.
The central authority is unnecessary for the kind of obvious answer that to the problem of barter.
Yeah.
Which the problem of barter is that what I have to exchange for what I want, the person that has the thing that I want may not want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so then you have to involve another party so that maybe you can make a 3-way exchange or a 4-way exchange for everybody to end up with the items that they want.
Yeah. Without currency, it's a little tough.
Right. So then you find any commodity that can be used to facilitate the exchange that everybody recognizes the value of, and use that as a medium to exchange unlike things.
Yeah.
Right. And then what you can actually use as money is kind of is limited to some degree through its purpose, which is you want something that's valuable enough that moving the whole for the things that you want isn't too difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like something that can go in your pocket.
Yeah.
Like you want something that can go in your pocket. You want something that's divisible, that you can break down into smaller portions to trade at the level that you need.
Yeah.
You need something that generally speaking, you need something that people value for other uses.
Yeah. Like cigarettes.
Yeah. Or shells or gold, or, creates, you can make jewelry and, status symbols of various kinds and so forth. Yeah. Gold was an obvious one because, you need something that's limited to a degree, obviously too. Yeah. That takes some effort to, add more into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a checklist.
Yeah.
But, anyway, the point is that the Fed chair and the president are really arguing over who's going to be held responsible for the coming crash.
Yeah.
And neither of them is making the right choices. And the person on Bob Murphy's podcast that was talking about this was saying that he thought that the decisions to increase the money supply to lower rates should be placed in Congress.
Yeah.
And so of course the immediate
then they would never move.
Well, they might move a lot, but his argument was then it would be made very clear that these decisions were being made for political reasons.
Purposes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's really that's the problem with that system. Mm-hmm. I mean, the free market is obviously the way to go, but the idea that you'd have Democrats and Republicans fighting over what the rate's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen them fight over the
debt ceilings.
That was
the Republicans want to raise when their guy's in office and don't want to raise when the Democrats in office and vice versa.
I can't imagine giving like that body that authority over interest rates.
Yeah.
Like that's a recipe for disaster.
Well, the idea again is that it would be made very clear that those decisions were being made for political purposes, not economic purposes, and the people would push to have that shut down.
Well, I mean, that's a wing in the prayer, if you ask me.
Which is part of my my open borders argument.
I was going to say it's the same as your open borders argument. And
I mean, that's not the only argument.
It's not. No, I know, but that's for under the current circumstances. Part
of it is the complaint about welfare that these people would benefit from all the public services and so forth. Maybe it would put pressure to reduce the number of public services.
Yeah, maybe
to shift all those things back to the market.
Or maybe it would just. Everybody would just choose to bankrupt this country.
Well,
we're already there. So.
The same goal is achieved.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if the government goes bankrupt,
yeah,
everything shifts back to a free market.
Yeah, maybe.
There's no other way to make exchanges.
Yeah, but I think a lot more happens than just that. Though.
Sure. I don't know how badly off we would really be.
I don't
because
know.
Our wealth isn't the money that we carry around. The wealth is all the stuff that we have.
Yeah, we got a ton of that. Yeah.
So
there's a ton of plastic in this country.
Yeah. I mean, just look around this house,
Yeah, no.
And I'm not a huge consumer, but
yeah. There's definitely
like
stuff
I've got things.
Yeah. Well.
So anyway, I guess that's all I've really got for today. And we're close to an hour. You and I had said that we were going to try and keep it short. And of course, that never works.
That never works out. It's like, we don't have that much to talk about. We can keep it short.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add, though, before we close out here?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, happy Mother's Day to everybody who's, coming.
Qualifies.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say everybody who's listened this long.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that too. Happy Mother's Day to my mother, particularly, of course. Yeah. And I'm sure you got things you want to add to that.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, including my own and my wife. Mm-hmm. So get that, and yours, and everybody else's.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope y'all have a great Sunday. And let's see, we'll be back next week. We are closing in on
the convention. That's the end of this month. Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll have more announcements about that as we get closer. Usually we have an interview up there. I say usually. About half the time we have an interview up there.
It's been a long time since we went to one.
Well, the both of us.
Oh, I guess you went to some that I didn't go to.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I don't know who's going to be there. It helps to know who's going to be there in advance so that I can make arrangements with people while they're there to get an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Scott was going to be there because I paid for it.
You made it so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, really, Laura made it happen, but I funded it.
Yeah.
And then I guess I had been talking to Mike Meharry before they invited him to the convention at that one.
Yeah.
So then when I found out he was going to be at the convention, because I'd been emailing him back and forth about some articles at 10th Amendment Center. Anyway, when I found out he was going to be at that one, I said, hey, if you've got some time, we'd like to do an interview. And let's see. And I don't remember who's been at the... I didn't know how to get in touch with Spike.
Oh, yeah.
When at that one. No. And I don't think that we'd have had time anyway. I say that. You and I talked to him for about an hour, but it was in a public place and there were other people socializing. And he was socializing with other people too. It's not quite...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he would have been willing to block off that time.
For us.
Yeah. Anyway. But, that would have been fun though. Or we should have just recorded that conversation. No, that would have been a bad idea. Never mind. All right. Anyway, as we know more, we'll announce more.
Yeah.
And but it'll probably interfere with the schedule.
Yeah, that week's going to be as far as recording here is going to be tough because I've got stuff going on before the convention too. So that week, I mean, like I say, our best chance to record that week is going to be at the convention.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe we can snag somebody for a talk.
And that's Memorial Day weekend. So a couple of weeks away.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, next week though, we'll be here. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean. Like and share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. All the interactions help. Once again, I always want to encourage you guys. Like, I hate algo chasing or whatever, but it matters.
Yeah.
So, we appreciate all the engagement and interactions because it just helps us get out there in front of other people. So, if you listen, hit that like button and whatever else, share
all the things.
All the things.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And we'll be back next week when we finally get this right. And in the meantime, try to stay free.
Life short, live free.
Ciao.
Later.